Oh, did you see this? I was supposed to bring this out yesterday, but I didn't get time to play with it, hook it up.
Nice.
You know what it is?
It's a floppy toy.
It's a gimbal. You put your camera on this, and no matter which way you turn, the camera will stay.
Huh. Makes me dizzy just watching it.
Much more better.
Yep.
You awake, Mike?
It's broken. Yeah, sort of awake.
Okay, well.
Let's do this.
All right, let's do it.
Let's do this.
Right.
It is that time.
Pick us up.
And now for something special. The unit is self-contained with its own saddler, farrier, wheelwright and so on. It's a rigorous training dished out who know all there is to know about horses, and it brings results.
We take you behind the scenes now to show just some of the interesting aspects of this training.
Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine, the #1 podcast to create sounder horses from the ground up. Mike Stine is a registered journeyman farrier with an APF1 accreditation. On this week's show, talking terminology, we're going to talk about pigeon-toed and splayed foot. Also, proper balance movement, chapter 10, the topper story, and also a case study of a horse named Benji. All this and much, much more will be discussed here on Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine, and over to my far inside is Mike Stine. You don't know who Benji is?
I don't know Benji.
Benji's the case study of the horse that we're going to talk about towards the end of the show with the feet that go out like that.
Oh, yeah, that's Benji.
That's Benji.
That's Benji.
How are you, Mike?
I'm doing good, Travis. How are you doing?
Doing all right. You had your clinic the other day. How did that go?
How did it go? You were there.
I was there. You had about at least 30, 50 people out there.
Yeah, it was a good turnout.
Great turnout.
Had some interesting people there, and
good fellowship, good food.
Fellowship, good food.
Everything was good. You had you had one little hiccup, and out of all your stuff that you were supposed to bring, you had your pointer. You brought the wife. You brought your projector. You bought the stand for the projector. You forgot the screen.
Right.
How do you forget the screen?
Actually, very easy.
It was on the other side of the house.
It was right there. It's still there. It was there when it got back home.
Right in front of your face, and you forgot it. Well, it worked out great.
It wouldn't even talk to me.
It worked out good. You might someone let you one of their big, huge white sheet and stuff. So we've done that before.
We worked it out.
Yeah, there's kids in the backyard. We've done that watching movies and stuff. So it was no big deal. It turned out great. And there'll be clips of that video over on the Equine Dynamics YouTube channel, so you can check that out as well. And you can see what was going on at the clinic that Mike just did. Now, Mike, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Not necessarily a question, more of a statement. And it's a concern, but not really a concern.
Concern, not concern. Barbecue sauce.
As you know, my wife and I have several horses.
Right.
They're her horses, but I'm by proxy. I'm adopted to them.
Yeah.
And we had this horse called Dominique.
Right.
She's a mare, and
right.
we brought her up from Florida. We're from Orlando, Florida, and we brought her up here, and that was going to be my wife's dressage horse.
Right.
We bought this property. We brought all the horses up here, the horses that we have, but this was our main horse that she was riding. We built a nice arena for her. We built a nice barn for her. And then, she was doing her lessons and trying to get to a next level. And Mike, you work on Dominique, or not Dominique. Yeah, Dominique.
Dominique, yes.
You work on Dominique. And we discovered that she had a small problem.
Right.
That you could fix with the shoes, but it was hindering my wife's riding style. She rides dressage.
Right.
She couldn't progress any further. So she went out and bought another horse.
Right.
That didn't have this problem.
Right.
And that's Diego. Now, Diego's our gelding, and he's off at training camp. He was actually at the place where you were doing the clinic.
Yes, he is in training camp.
And so my wife is excelled. I mean, like leaps and bounds now with this new horse.
Right.
And so my question is now, I feel bad. I feel like now Dominique is neglected, and she's now a pasture horse.
Poor thing.
I know. She's out there just grazing.
Nobody's bothering her.
Yep, just being ignored.
Yeah,
nobody loves her. No, nothing.
Leave me alone.
What was me?
Yeah.
Singing Don't Fence Me In, right?
Right.
What's that joke? So I'm concerned that now she's lost her. She's like she's like a Charles Barkley now. You know, at his peak, he was skinny and mean, but now Charles Barkley's big fat Charles Barkley.
Right.
So I was like, hey, babe, you know, I know you do the lunge line now and then, but you don't do it all the time. And I'm seeing it progressively get less and less and less. So I was concerned that she was not going to have a job.
She has a job. It's eating.
It is. Now, my wife recently talked to a nutritionist out at the barn that she's training at,
right,
and explained the situation, how much Dominique was getting and all this other stuff. She's actually getting a little bit too much, so she had to back it off like a half a pound or a quarter of a pound of whatever food that she's getting. And it's small. I mean, it's like a Ziploc bag. It's barely an inch and a half up the bag, a gallon-sized bag of food. And I'm like, God, how does she eat? How does she survive on just these pellets? But anyways, she is now going to be a brood mare. The process is, I think, it's getting the sample and send it to Texas A&M to get the DNA to make sure that it matches up. It's just a lot of work. It's a lot of paperwork to get this done. What she's come across now with her group of her new friends over there at
she has friends.
She has a lot of friends.
Right.
My wife has a lot of friends over there. What she's going to do now is she's going to make our horse a surrogate horse. I did not know that was possible.
Yes.
One of the young ladies out there has a mare and doesn't want to break her cycle as far as her training.
Right.
Because, how long is the incubation or whatever they call it when a horse gets pregnant? Is it 11 months?
It's a lot longer than a chicken.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
But she didn't want to lose that time because that's the young lady. This is her only horse. So she was going to steal an egg from here, steal the gelding sperm.
The gelding sperm.
And did I say that right? No.
He's an interesting gelding.
The
stallion.
The stallion, thank you. The stallion sperm and the egg from her horse, and they were going to implant it in Dominique.
Right.
Do you think that's a good idea? I mean, not that your opinion. I mean, I value your opinion.
Not that my opinion really matters for anything.
No, but I mean, have you heard of that being done before?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
I've had people that have done that sort of thing, and I've got clients that are planning on that in the future to keep a horse in work. It is done. They have figured out the program. They've been doing it for a good many years now, and you can get a nice baby out of a particular horse and not take it out of the show ring.
My thing is, here's my angle. I'm always at an angle. I'm thinking, our horse is one of the Kardashians. So I'm thinking like, Kim Kardashian did that. She had a surrogate baby and she paid the birthing mom, I think $100,000 a month or something like that.
Right.
So you think I can get $100,000 a month just to
it'd be worth a shot if you can get him to do that. I'd be all for it, but I'm not going to hold my breath and bet on it.
Well, if I get $100,000, if we can get $100,000 a month to have our horse be a surrogate for this young lady who wants her horse to be bred,
right?
I'll give you 10%, Mike.
Okay.
You make it happen.
Okay, I'll do it.
All right, guys, stick around. We got a lot to talk about, a lot to get into, and we're going to be talking terminology. Some phrases you might have heard around the barn don't exactly know what they mean. So stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back. Yeah, you think so, Mike? You think I can get $100,000 for that?
Yeah, if you can. I think you ought to get about a dozen mares and get $100,000 out of each of them.
Start cranking them out.
Yeah, there you go.
Ka-ching. What's the thing where he's counting the money? 1, 2, 3. All right, you ready?
Yep.
Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. If you have any questions for Mike Stine, the way you get a hold of him is go to equinedynamics.com. At the top of the page says contacts. Fill out that little form there. Make sure you put a return address. And if we read your question on the air or just answer your question in general, we'll send you out a little prize pack for being part of the show. And don't forget, for every podcast we do, we have a matching video as well. You can see me waving to Mike, Mike waving to me over there. And you can see all the different videos and podcasts that we've been doing for the last 2 years or so. And you can also see this new clinic that Mike was part of this past Thursday. Was it Thursday? When was the clinic?
Was it Thursday? No.
What's today? Oh, it's Saturday. Sorry.
Yes.
I forget what day it is sometimes. This past Saturday, and you can see a small little snippet of Mike Stine's
Past Saturday for most people, Thursday for you.
Yeah, feels all the days blend together. And over to my far hand side is Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm doing good, Travis. How are you doing?
Doing all right. You're getting a little dressier in here. I've noticed like more and more the weather gets colder out. You've got like all these different shirts and stuff with your logo and everything on it. You look good over there, by the way.
How much am I paying you to say that?
You're not paying me at all.
Okay.
So, talking terminology, these are types of phrases and stuff that you might hear your vet talk about. You might hear some of the people in your barn talk about. It might be a slang word. It might be an actual technical terminology. And we just kind of help you clear up what it actually, those terms mean. Now, this week, we're going to be talking about pigeon-toed or splayed foot. So, these are two different deviations from the same idea. So first of all, Mike, what is pigeon-toed? Now, I think pigeon-toed, I think of like a
pigeon.
Exactly like a pigeon where your toes are kind of kicked in towards the center.
That would be it, yes.
Okay, does that happen on the front feet, back feet of a horse, or all four horses, or all four legs?
It's a little difficult on the back end to get too far that way. I have seen it. It would be rare. Primarily the front end, as far as being pigeon-toed. As far as turning out, well, that's a different deal.
Now how do horses get pigeon-toed?
They're crossbred with pigeons, a surrogate mare thing. Oh, it starts higher up in the leg, and some of it has to do with the width of the chest. It has to do with the knee alignment. It comes all the way down, and you can work with some of those deviations when they're young enough. Problem is when the horse gets a little age to it, you got to figure out how to work with the horse with the joint alignment as it is, because you're not going to change a lot when they get some age to them. A tendon and ligament stretch, you can deal with that, but as far as your joint spacing, you got to keep it where you're not binding the joint.
Is this something that's preventable with just regular maintenance as far as like shoeing and exercise and stuff like that? Or is this pigeon-toed if you just let a horse lay out the pasture like Dominique is right now? Do I have to worry about her turning?
You do not have to worry about her. This starts when, this is something, if you're going to make major changes in it, you have to do it when they're youngsters. And, your older horses, things it's always in flux. It always changes. With Dominique, we're doing regular maintenance on her feet. She's getting her trims, and that's not going to happen with her because of the way her knees are set, and that's her age. That's where she is.
I think she's 11 or 12.
Right.
Yeah.
She is who she is. This is something that starts with a young horse, and there are time windows where we can do things to help with it. After a horse grows up and the joints close, then you have to figure out how to maintain do the best you can with what you've got to work with.
At what age is an early sign of pigeon-toed? Should I be worried?
I have people that don't do anything with their babies. I have people that will have me take a look at their babies a couple of weeks old. Depending on what's happening, we may start doing something with a couple-week-old baby, like your high-low foot, club foot. The further down in the leg, the quicker you have to move on doing something with that particular alignment. As you work your way up the leg, your time window is the lower leg joint has to start closing, and then you've got a time window between that and the next joint, and it goes all the way up the leg. But most everything you need to do by time pretty well on the way with it by the time they're 6 months old. Some things need to be done with her a couple months old. You may have 9 months depending on where you are in the alignment.
Now, flayed or splayed foot. I always thought splayed was a made-up word anyways. Man, look at them splayed foots. The term splayed foot refers to the horse having its toes point outwards.
Point out, yes.
Okay.
Pigeon-toed in, splayed foot's out.
And you said this is only traditionally in the front of the horse, the front legs.
Splayed foot, you will see that in the back end of a horse. Pigeon-toed, it would be a little tougher to see in the back end of a horse because the alignment of the leg and the your stifle joint has to flex outside of your rib cage, and the hind leg is a bit of a corkscrew. It's not dead straight anyway, but typically if it's not aimed more in a forward direction a little bit, the hind feet will be aimed out, kind of like a splayed foot. Yeah.
Now, again, what age do you start seeing this, and what age, or at what time? And will Dominique have to worry about splayed foot being out there? No, she will not. Okay, so neither Pigeon nor...
don't worry about that.
Okay.
She's good.
All right.
She's good.
That's all I worry about.
Yeah, we put these things in front of you. This is not Dominique. Her leg alignment, or the way her knees are set, the way her joints are set, with the flexion, the direction the joints flex in, no problem.
She's good to go.
She's good to go.
So splayed foot, how do you, once you see the splayed foot and you haven't, a neglected horse, I'm assuming, how do you treat the splayed foot? Is it treatable? Can you bring them back towards center or close to center as you possibly can? And is it 100% recovery, or it's kind of like an 80% recovery?
Well, here's the deal with splay foot horse. Splay foot horse are going to swing way in as they walk, right? To a pigeon-toed horse, the leg's going to loop out as they walk. The other thing you're going to have to look at on any horse when they're doing that, what are they doing on the diagonal leg? Typically, if you have a horse that tracks really narrow in the front, they track wide in the back, and vice versa. But you will typically have a bit of an odd movement pattern on the back end of the horse. Now, where those horses can turn and rotate is in the shoulder sling, and you can work with that on a horse that's a little older, with some body work, with some stretching, with paying attention to what your back end's doing to get them off of the shoulder sling. And some of the what's going on in the shoulder sling can be driven by the mechanics not being where they should be in the back end. If you can do that and free up the shoulder sling, you can get some give there, because the shoulder is not attached to the body like our shoulder. And even at that, we can rotate our arm, right? It's in a sling it's in a muscle sling. And if you got contracted muscles and atrophied muscles, if you can get some of them to build and to stretch, well, that shoulder sling can move a little bit.
Now, you mentioned the pigeon-toed swinging wide as it came around. Can that be mistaken as paddle foot, or is that
that would be considered paddling.
Okay.
And even if they're pretty similar on as far as the pigeon toe effect, some of the paddling would not be the same left or right, depending on how the horse is tracking. If they're tracking with the dog tracking, I mean the hind is tracking more to one side, then the leg that is, if you're just say if your hip's tracking right, that left shoulder is going to have a bigger swing to come out and around and get in front of the horse.
But all of it can be corrected up to 90% recovery on that, or is it kind of like most
of the time on these deals, I don't see don't run into them till somebody's got a horse and all of a sudden we've got a performance issue.
Yeah, extreme conditions.
And we've got a horse that is an age where if you've got an odd joint alignment, we can't go against the joint alignment, but really we got to figure out how to work with the alignment. Where the knee aims dictates how the horse breaks over. The foot may be aimed in a different direction. And sometimes an awful lot of times we try to set the break over where it's square with the foot. And on some of these horses, they're not going to like that. You got to set your break over with the direction the knee wants to go.
All right, guys, stick around. When we come back, we're going to talk about a horse named Topper, about a young lady who bought a horse sight unseen. One of the worst case scenarios you can think about. And we'll talk about that when we come back. Stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back. You getting into it, Mike?
I am. We're getting there.
I know. I'm holding you up from whatever you got to do today. This is the part I love, Mike.
Hold me up?
No, the reading of the...
Sorry.
No, it's all right.
Hopefully we got that kind of minimized.
Yeah. Well, I like to read over it first. It's the cold reading that I hate. You ready?
Yep.
Oh, let me go back to this camera here. Boop. There we go. Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. Oh.
What have you done?
Nothing. I didn't do anything. My computer took off before I took off. Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. Don't forget to follow him over on Facebook, and the way you do that is just search Equine Dynamics Mike Stine. Make sure you like him over there on Facebook. Mike, you put a bunch of articles up there, different pictures of stuff, and you can also follow him on your YouTube channel. For every podcast we do, we have a matching YouTube as well, and you can see all the visuals that we have here in the studio, and we're going to have actually some pictures of a horse named Benji coming up here in the next segment. So if you're not watching now's a chance to go over there and make sure you subscribe to him over there as well. He would appreciate that. And over to my far hand side is Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm doing good. Travis, how are you doing today?
Doing all right. Did you get enough coffee on the way over here this morning?
Well, I could have had a little bit more, I think, but we're trying. We're trying.
Normally you have like a whole cup, one of those little thermos cup things, and then you have another one while you're here.
Right.
But
and I didn't even bring my thermos cup, did I?
I was kind of nervous when I didn't see it, Mike, but you're doing all right. Doing okay today. So here we go. This is a horse named Topper. Now, we're reading from the book, you always cover this up.
Proper Balance Movement.
Proper Balance Movement, A Diary of Lameness, written by Mike Stine's friend and mentor, one of his mentors, Tony Gonzalez. Now, Tony Gonzalez, unfortunately, we lost him back in 2000 or 2001? 2000. And Tony Gonzalez, it was I'll give it just a small little background on who he is and what he did.
Tony grew up in Hawaii, and he spent a lot of time trying to figure a few things out, going a few different channels, and started looking at, he said where the started was watching wild horses, and they would come up with injuries, but the top of the body would stay pretty square and pretty straight with the wild horses.
Now, was he a farrier? Was he a vet? Was he a technician?
He was a farrier. He grew up in a family of farriers.
Okay.
So he tried to create the best he could what he thought they were doing, and you're looking at him from a distance with a pair of strong binoculars, watching trying to see what was going on with the feet. And start trying to build that with pad work or whatever to try to keep the horses, the domestic horses, if you got one that is collapsed on one side, weak shoulder, collapsed angle shoulder, drop to hip, that sort of thing, keep them square up top. Because one of the biggest things, like with your wife's dressage horse, and anybody's dressage horse, any performance horse, is you got to keep a horse square, get a horse square and straight. And horses are not straight, when they come out of the womb. And then you throw a human in there that is not loading evenly, one hand stronger than the other, we sit off to one side, or whatever it may be.
Sounds like you're describing me, Mike.
Right, yeah. Throw it in the mix, and then we twist it up a little more, and we expect them to do all this high-end performance. Go ahead.
So we're going to read out of this book, and this is a story. Now, Tony writes in first person, so it's as if he is speaking. So the story goes like this. A young woman named Patty was talked into buying a horse and paying for it over the phone, sight unseen. Patty committed her money to the horse and couldn't back out of the deal. What next came over the phone was the owner's nightmare. When the horse arrived by plane, the horse named Topper came down the airplane ramp, and Patty didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The horse's two front legs were severely crooked, a very bad deal for $3,000. I told her that she had the kind of friend I would like to have. Okay. The transition had taken 8 months before I got the call to help. During that 8 months, Patty spoke with many specialists, advising her how to correct the horse's crooked legs. And after the last shoeing, the horse is now hitting his knees on the inside. Do you realize how high those toes have to travel in order for this to happen? Patty took me down this Topper stall. She was right. Buying this horse was a big mistake. The horse had both front legs turning outward very badly. Topper was a big horse, about 16.2 hands high, and unusually long cannon bones, probably the longest I've ever seen. Patty walked Topper over toward me and away from me while I filmed his motion with my camera. I'm sure back in the 80s he had like a little 8mm camera.
It's probably had a hand crank on it.
Yeah. The horse's movement was fascinating to watch. When Topper turned around and walked away, his abnormalities of his knees in motion, the real cause of his movement problem became clear. His hind legs were shortened in stride and twisted on the hocks and helped break over. This was a compensation for the front problems. So tell us what happened here with Topper and how he dealt with it.
Well, I think what was going on when people came in on the horse, first rule is, well, we for years we've tried to make the foot straight.
What before you continue? So
Right.
this young lady, Patty, bought this horse
Yes.
over the phone. Now, when you buy a horse over the phone, which I don't recommend without seeing pictures or anything
No.
like that, isn't there something, I don't know, this was written back in the 80s, isn't there like cognitive tests and something like that, vet tests or anything like that? Did they do that back then? Or did
Yes,
you
they-
just basically just say, hey, this horse, and take my word for it and don't look at it in the mouth type deal?
Yeah, don't look a gift horse in the mouth.
Right.
For sure. And I've had people that have bought horses at this time in history without ever seeing one at all in any way, shape, or form. With videos, with our digital world, it's pretty easy to take a look at a horse. And probably more people use vet checks now than they did at that point. So fair chance, I would guess maybe the horse was not vet checked. I've had people in the last year or two buy a horse from somewhere, and they showed a picture and never showed the legs, or you took the picture at just the correct angle to hide something, and then bought it and got it home. It's like, oh boy, we got something.
Wasn't it you that said never buy a horse with a picture of it standing in tall grass?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure that was you that was talking to me.
Yes, exactly. Because if you see, there's a lot of pictures of horses up for breeding, up for whatever, where they'll have manicured grass, but it's tall enough it covers the foot up. And it's nice, pretty background, nice lush grass. Horses standing in the grass. It looks good, but boy, it had some ugly bad feet.
Yeah. So how did Tony Gonzalez address the issue with Topper?
Well, he kind of, what had been happening is the outside of the foot had been being cut off. And
like literally like sheared off?
Well, just trim down the outside of the hoof to try to level the hoof out, because the hoof sat long to the outside. Mm-hmm. So that
don't look at the camera. Look at your hand. Don't look at the camera.
so that the outside wall was longer, and it would cock the hoof up. So they would try to immediately settle that down and get it flat. But what it was doing was not allowing the knee to move like it should with what was there. And the other thing is, well, we're always saying make the breakover straight over the center. Well, if this horse was towed out really hard, he's not going to like that so much, because the knee's trying to go in this direction, you're trying to push the foot to go in this direction. So kind of what he ended up doing was doing some things to bring the brake over, where if the knee's aimed here, bring the brake over this way.
And you can see Mike do all these hand signals and stuff over on our YouTube channel. I got a camera on his hands, because that's the way he talks a lot. And there's a lot of
If I have
visuals.
my hands up, I can't say anything.
I know you'll be not talking very much. So there,
Right.
check him over on YouTube as well.
And it really didn't address what was going on in the back end. But if you had that kind of a swing movement in the front, you had a counterbalance maneuver in the back end. And at this point, with anything like that, I always go to the back end, and some of the ideas have changed since Tony has done that. And there are situations where we're limited. This is what the owner will allow, so that's the only place we can work. But when you look at the diagonal pressure in the hoof, if you had that much of a pull outside with the foot, I'm sure that on that diagonal in the heel, it was probably pulled over and pulled up. So relieving a little bit of pressure at that point could allow that foot, as far as the position and the bone column, to be a little happier.
So here's a question that I have for you. Now, Patty said she paid about $3,000 for this horse back in the 80s. So
Back in the 80s.
that was still a good chunk of change.
Right.
That's no pasture horse. So the question that I have for you, Mike.
What's that, a $10,000 horse now?
Probably somewhere close to it, yeah. So the question I have for you is, you see Topper and you see the condition, and you're like going, well, it's like a mechanic. You've got like my 1992 Nissan that's out there.
Right.
I paid, I think, $3,000 for it. But at what point, to get this fixed and to get this fixed and to get this fixed, have you now exceeded the price of your purchase? And, is it a farrier where are you going to be like, for me to get this horse fixed, it's going to take some time. And I hate to say, but, I have to make a living too. I have to feed my family and everything. This is my rate. This is what we're doing. I can cut you a break here or there. I don't know if you do that or not. But, I mean, to get this horse right, at what point does an owner go, it's not worth it? I'm just going to let the horse be a horse. I mean,
there is that.
I mean, do you see that, or have you come across that in your career of doing this? Like, hey,
right.
look,
there is a point of diminishing return for sure, financially, and with horses that have mechanical issues like this, as they get older, it gets a little tougher to keep them out there as working horses. In this situation, they did get the horse going better. If you go, and
at what cost though? I mean, was it another $3,000 worth of time and labor and material and all that?
Yeah, it's one of those deals, or was this one of those deals that, and I've done this in past years, I don't really anymore, but you take on a horse like that because it's just a mess, and it goes back to what Bernie Chapman said about taking on the challenges. But a horse like that will teach you a lot if you can go back, and also make you lose a lot of sleep trying to figure it out.
Lose a lot of hair and
lose a lot of sleep.
Add some wrinkles to your face too.
Exactly. But they're time consuming. And if you're looking at, I'm worth so much per hour, you really can't charge enough for what you put into them.
Right.
But this may be a horse that he took on because this is just a challenge situation, and this is the only way I'll get to do it. And I want to figure it out. So I don't know where he was at that point in his career. Earlier in my career, I took on horses that nobody wanted to mess with because this thing is such a train wreck. We don't want our name tied to it.
Right.
And I would do some of these horses because if you're at the point we're thinking about putting this horse down, if we can get anything, it's an improvement, right?
Right.
But lost sleep, but I learned a lot from them. So in that, as far as the learning curve, they were worth a lot to me.
More than the money that
More than the money, yeah.
All right, guys, stick around. When we come back, we're going to talk about a horse named Benji. And if you're not watching this on YouTube, now's a great chance to jump on over there. Make sure you subscribe to Mike Stine over there. We do a podcast every Monday, so make sure you're up to date with all your information and educational equine stuff. So stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back. Holding up, Mike?
I'm holding up.
After this, you're ready to do another show.
I am. It's always a show every day.
Always something, Kowalski.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. If you have any questions for Mike Stine, the way you get those questions into him is to go to equinedynamics.com. At the top of the page says Contact Us. Fill out that little form, put your return address in there, and we'll send you out a big prize pack. Mike got a whole bunch of his goodie bag got all
re-goodied.
Yeah, re-goodied. He's got magnets. He's got cool stickers, hologram stickers, a whole bunch of keychains and all that stuff. So make sure you reach out to him, and we'll send you out a prize pack as well. And over to my far right side is Mike Stine.
How are you, Travis?
I'm doing all right. So now, for all our YouTube video watchers, we are going to show this horse. This horse's name is Benji. This is a case study. Now, this goes along the lines, and this is what I can imagine that Topper's feet look like. So I'm going to switch to camera. What camera am I going to? Camera 6. And we're going to see what these Benji's feet are. So tell us what we're looking at here, Mike.
Well, let's look at this guy, and let's look at the whole alignment, and let's look at,
You know what that looks like to me?
What's that?
What's the, I know we're in Halloween season and stuff. What's that half man, half goat that would run around with a flute?
That's him. That's exactly, yes.
That's what his legs look like. This horse's legs look like.
Right. This is, reason we popped this one up, this is one of those deals, bought sight unseen. Really good horse. Mm-hmm. And a good disposition, I'll give him that. But before we even look anywhere else on the horse, you got some obvious tendon swelling on the right hind. You look at the fetlocks, And you're like, that's kind of puffing up. Do we start to question our suspensory? And then, well, what are our knees doing? And you know, look at what's happening with the feet.
So what we're looking at here, this is the front two legs, right?
Right.
All right. And this right here is this the back, or is this another angle?
That's the other.
Oh, the other side.
That's the other side of the front legs. But see the puffiness in the back of the superficial flexor
Right here?
Yeah, that shouldn't be there.
What would cause that puffiness, that swelling? Did he bump his leg or something? Does he have a pulled muscle?
I'd say there has been some long-term tendon strain, and
Now, with that swellingness, would that horse limp? Because I know if I have a strained muscle in my leg, I would limp for a little bit.
Good chance, yes. I think there was probably some limping. Sight unseen, got it home, and there we go.
So now,
and look at where that pastern is sitting a little too low. I would suspect some sesamoid, some suspensory problems, some tendon problems. We got a lot of compression in the back of that foot. You can't say it's because of a shoe, because the horse is barefoot, has been barefoot from the looks of things. And those fetlocks are sinking kind of low to the ground.
I'm looking at this horse, Mike, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like going, this, and I'm like I said all the time, I'm the simpleton of this show. I'm looking at this. The horse's leg comes straight down, then it shoots out right before the hoof at a 45-degree angle, and then it's the horse's foot.
Right.
So I'm thinking that's bone, that's structure. I understand that. How do you fix that to get it to come up straighter just by carving the foot or shaping the hoof of the foot?
With that leg attached.
Because I'm thinking like breaking the bone, resetting it, like you would a kid's arm. If a kid's arm looked like that, you break the bone and reset it. You don't do that with a horse. You just do it by trimming. By
trimming, by support, by, this guy's, if you're to do something with him, and there's a point where you got to scratch your head, say, is it worth putting the horse through what we're trying to do to get him to where he can be a riding horse? So this horse was, bought and retired basically. And, how much effort do you want to put in, and where are we going to go with it?
How long would it take for you to get this horse in a comfortable position in the condition that this horse is in right now?
A long time if we could.
When you say long time, year, 2 years, month, 2 months?
I'm going to say a year.
1 year.
If we could.
If you could. So
if we could.
It's still a possibility.
This is a pretty limited possibility, but this was a sight unseen.
Yep.
And
so what do you do? What do you do when you have a horse like that and it comes off the plane or the boat or wherever you got it from, and you get this condition? I mean, you get right back on the phone and yell at the guy you bought it from if you can get a hold of him.
Well, I didn't buy it, so
I'm saying the person, you in general.
You in general wouldn't buy it, and I don't know how much recourse you could have on something. It's kind of buyer beware.
Yeah.
And I don't know that this horse ever had a vet check. If it did, I wonder what they were checking.
How old is this horse, do you think?
I do not remember, but I think it's probably early teens.
Okay. So it's pretty much set in its ways as far as its joints have all come together, and
it's got some issues, and it's got some serious issues, and I think it is a degenerative issue, and I think in time those pasterns will collapse on down, and
he'll be done for.
He'll be done for, and I know that he went to pasture. I do not know where the horse is at this point.
So this didn't happen overnight.
No.
So is this a result of uncare, unkept, unconditioned, unmaintenanced, or is this hereditary type stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, all the above. Check all three.
There could be some things that are hereditary as far as degenerative problems, and I don't know what kind of care the horse had before.
Yeah.
Obviously, this horse is not at a place where we're going to go run the Derby or anything like that.
Well, I hope he's retired and at least he's happy. Happy wherever he's at.
Last I saw him, he was happy he was eating.
How long ago was that?
I don't know. I'm pretty happy when I'm eating.
Sure, we all are.
While I've not seen that horse for some time. Somebody else is working on him at this point.
All right, guys, stick around. When we come back, one more little segment, and we'll wrap up the show. Stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back. I promise. I do. All right, you ready? Wrap up the show?
Yep.
Here we go. Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. Make sure you follow him over on YouTube. Search Equine Dynamics Mike Stine. Also, you can follow him over on Facebook. Mike also always puts a bunch of interesting articles if you'd like to further your education over there. So search for him on Facebook. That's Equine Dynamics Mike Stine. Also, if you'd like us to perform at your location, we can perform this show right at your location or your event, whatever you got going on. Just email Mike over at the equinedynamics.com. At the top of the page says clinics. Fill that little form out there. Myself and Mike will come out there and do the exact same thing that we're doing here in the studio right at your location, and see a bunch of smiling faces out there like we did this past Saturday. So, Mike, what did we learn today? Talking terminology. Oh, and over to my far right side is Mike Stine. How are you?
Where? Oh, here.
There
Yes.
you are. So, Mike, what did we learn today? Talking terminology.
We were talking about slewfoot,
What is a pigeon toed and splayed foot?
a splay foot, or
Right.
yes, splay foot or a pigeon toed. Pigeon toes turned in, splay foot's turned out.
And both of them are fixable if you catch them early enough,
To a degree.
to a degree.
To a degree.
So, like an 80% recovery, 90% recovery?
It's going to vary with every horse, and it's just going to depend on when you start working on it.
I want exact numbers, Mike. Darn it. I'm all
give
about
you
numbers.
exact numbers.
Darn it. All right.
I can give you exact numbers, but I'll make myself wrong.
Yeah, I can give you a better idea. Let's put it that way.
Right.
How long it'll be. Also, proper balance of. Oh, let me go back to the book here. Chapter 10, the story of Topper. A young lady bought this horse sight unseen. And when it came off the plane, she paid $3,000 for it. She almost laughed and cried at the same time because the horse's feet were all tricked out. And here's a small little snippet from that story. Right here. Each previous analyst of the horse movement had failed because the knee factor was neglected. The frontal movement was a direct result of the knee motion. The problem with Topper's motion had nothing to do with her shoes that were used. They should have worked. They didn't work because of the way the hoof was cut or trimmed. So Topper's feet, sight unseen,
We're a mess.
were a mess.
And part of the problem is if you look just at the foot, just at the lower leg, you're missing too much information. And what's going on in the body up top makes a big difference in what can be done. The knee, the way it opens and closes has more to do with breakover than the aim of the foot sometimes. And sometimes we need to aim with the knee.
And this picture right here that we were looking at, this is Benji. This is a horse that Michael's working on, almost the same condition. This family or this person bought this.
Well, this was a sight unseen.
Sight unseen again.
Bought it. Going to be a great horse, and it came off the trailer, and here we go.
I would be so upset. But yeah, it does look like the legs of that little boy that runs around with a flute, or half man, half boy. I forget what that person's called. I'll figure it out by the time you leave today. All right, guys, on that note, we're going to let you get back to enjoying your ponies. Make sure you follow Mike Stine over on YouTube. Search Equine Dynamics Mike Stine. Make sure you follow him on Facebook as well. Same thing, Equine Dynamics Mike Stine. If you have a question for Mike Stine, you can go to equinedynamics.com. At the top of the page says contact us if you'd like us to perform a show out at your location, or Mike can perform a clinic out at your location as well. Fill out that form. Make sure you put a return address, and we'll send you out a little prize pack. Mike's got a whole bunch of brand new goodies in his little goodie pack over there. On that note, guys, on behalf of Mike Stine over there,
Thank you, Travis. Y'all have a good day.
my name is Travis, saying see you next week. Bye.
Hi, Lucky. Good night, Ned. Night,
See you later,
Good night, Ned.
everybody.
Good night, Ned.
Good show, Mike.
We survived it.
Good show.
I'll let you know what's going on with Dave. And if he does not respond, we'll go on with the Monday plan.